Dad, we've been here a while. Do you think maybe you want to go get a drink?
Well, hang on, I haven't been down every aisle yet. Well, yeah, and I've got to get a spanner, 17mm. Coach bolts. Oh, great. This threaded rod stuff, this is fantastic. Only 30 cents. This one, isn't it? Not today, anyway. Maybe tomorrow. So they lock the bolt in, stop it from coming loose. Yeah, dang. Maybe for Father's Day, you know, wouldn't mind some spanners.
Dad, we've been here for a few hours. Are you sure? Have you found what you're looking for?
Hang on. I think, yeah. This is... Oh, that's it. A 1/8 grub screw.
How did you go, Tim?
Yeah, got the 1/8 grub screw.
Fantastic. Brilliant. 50 cents for that one.
No worries. Yeah. Thanks, Peter.
You're welcome.
See you later.
See you later.
Finally.
Hang on, Nat. I've just got to go back for something. I think I forgot something.
Dad.
Happy Father's Day! Who breaks the power of sin and darkness, whose love is mighty and so much stronger, the King of glory, the King above all kings, who shakes the whole earth with holy thunder, leaves us breathless in awe and wonder, the King of glory, the King above all kings. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You lay down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Who brings our chaos back into order, who makes the orphan a son and daughter, the King of glory, the King of glory, who rules the nations with truth and justice, shines like the sun in all of its brilliance, the King of glory, the King above all kings. Woo! This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain, worthy is the King who conquered the grave, worthy is the Lamb who was slain, worthy is the King who conquered the grave, worthy is the Lamb who was slain, worthy is the King who conquered the grave, worthy is the Lamb who was slain, worthy, worthy, worthy. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You lay down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me.
and Colin wanted to make a new video this year, but they couldn't travel anywhere. So I asked people at home to chip in. Thanks everyone for your help.
My daddy is a math man, he flies inside above to reach the isolated with lots and lots of love. He brings them food and shelter along with medicine, 'cause if they are in trouble, my dad can get to them.
Oh, that's what it takes to be a math man, to play your part in the master's plan, to fly through skies and rescue lives. Yeah, that's what it takes to be a math man.
My daddy is a math man, he works behind the scenes to keep things flying smoothly, reaching those in need, with many others like him supporting every flight. My dad is really sending hope and light.
Oh, that's what it takes to be a math man, to play your part in the master's plan, to fly through skies and rescue lives. Yeah, that's what it takes to be a math man.
My daddy is a math man, he speaks and gives them praise to fuel the flights go out each and every day. Although he may not ever see the ones he saves, my daddy is a math man in his own special way.
Come on, everyone! Oh, that's what it takes to be a math man, to play your part in the master's plan, to fly through skies and rescue lives. Yeah, that's what it takes to be a math man. Oh, that's what it takes to be a math man. Oh, that's what it takes to be a math man.
Give your dad a jerry can this Father's Day.
Up and coming services. Well, it looks like we're still in lockdown, so our next couple of services will continue to occur online via Zoom. Sunday the 12th of September with guest speaker Natalie Stoner and Paul Coleman from Breakaway Youth. The following week, the 19th of September, will also be on Zoom. It will be a service in which we'll break out into breakout rooms for missional community groups. Prayer meeting on that evening will be at 6 p.m. via Zoom. Encounter night will be cancelled. Our Mango fundraiser is on again this year. All money raised will go towards providing gift bags for the care workers at the Hands at Work Africa Kilcoola community. If you would like more information about this, please contact Pastor Rohan or visit our website under events.
You know, someone once said, give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. But give a man a camera and he'll take an awesome photo of the fish, hang it up in the trophy room and enjoy it for the rest of his life. Now, some people say this is a camera. That's not a camera. This is a camera. If you want to get to learn how to use your camera, we are running a fantastic camera course at the church in October. It's going to be on Wednesday the 6th and Wednesday the 13th, followed by an outing. So ever want to know what all these little letters and numbers mean? Come along. It's going to be awesome. We have Rick from Ted's Cameras coming along as well. We've got some local fantastic photographers like Chris Nicola. And it's going to be a fantastic night together. Get to know people, get to share hobbies and just have some fun. It's going to be awesome. More details to come. Let's take some photos.
It is expected that Afghan believers and their families will cross the borders and arrive in surrounding countries, including India, Pakistan, and Tajikistan. ACCI is starting to prepare for the arrival of traumatized people needing to find safe places to settle and some sources of employment to give them a regular income. We anticipate that their stay in another country will be for many months, even years. If you would like to support ACCI, please visit our website for more details.
You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies till all my fears are gone. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. From my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Yes, love has called my name. I've been born again into your family. Your blood flows through my veins. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears were drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand here and sing. I am a child of God. Yes, I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears were drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and sing. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. Yes, I am. I am a child of God. Yes, I am. I am a child of God. child of God. I am a child of God.
So what does it mean to be a dad? I mean, at its core, what does it mean to be the best dad you can be? I mean, a dad's dad.
Found you.
Sometimes being a dad means you play hide and seek before breakfast.
You're so easy to find.
Maybe because I'm 3 times your size.
You know, there's more to being a dad than driving a minivan and wearing socks and sandals and telling bad jokes.
Don't talk with your mouth full.
Hey, I taught you that. Go wake up your brother, would you?
Ryan, Dad says to get up.
Kids, pancakes!
You know, being a dad isn't easy. It's like being under a constant job evaluation with managers who are much, much shorter than you. So we should strive to be the best dad we can be, because being a dad is a gift and a privilege. It's not an inconvenience or a burden. Now, lawn care, that's a burden. So let me tell you some things I've learned along the way. Ryan, it's time to get up, buddy. Kids need you to be present. They spell love T-I-M-E. If you get a chance to jump on the trampoline, go jump on the trampoline. It's not gonna kill you. Probably. Be your kid's biggest encouragement. I love to catch my kids doing something great, and I love to be intentional about letting them know that I noticed. And here's another one. Love when it isn't easy.
Excuse me.
Excuse me. And even when they're being annoying, I try to be slow to anger. And do I do it perfectly? You bet I do not. Not even close. That's why it's important they're not number one, right, champ? He's still asleep. It needs to be obvious that my relationship with God comes first. And through that relationship, I can gain wisdom and strength and perspective. So don't sweat it. We all mess up. I know I've messed up a lot, and that's okay. The key is when you mess up is to ask for forgiveness, because that's what a real dad does. Oh, and the jokes.
Got any new ones?
Yeah, did you hear the one about the pizza? It's probably too cheesy.
Don't forget about the cake.
Well, happy Father's Day to all the dads, to all the stepdads, to the wannabe dads, adopted dads, grandfathers, father figures out there. Happy Father's Day. It's funny, the thing that often people associate with dads is dad jokes. My dad was a one-liner kind of guy. I would say to him things like, "I'm hungry." And Dad would say, "Hello, hungry?" And I go, "Seriously, Dad, I'm hungry." And he'd reply, "Oh, I know you're serious. Hungry?" Or things like, "What's this movie all about?" "Well, it's about 2 hours." Or, "Can I watch TV?" "Yes, you can watch TV, but just don't turn it on." Or when I was a little bit older, I'd say, "Oh, hey, Dad, I'll call you later." And he said, "Oh, don't call me later, call me Dad." And I would, as a kid, just shake my head and go, "Oh, Dad, it's so frustrating." But the funny thing is that I look at my kids and I see them shaking their head going, "Dad, you're so frustrating." I've become just like my own father, using the same kind of jokes as my dad did. But jokes aside, being a father really is a privilege and a huge responsibility. But sadly, I'm not sure, or not convinced that a lot of fathers think that way. When I was a chaplain in a Christian college, I had a counselling student complete a 6-month counselling placement with me. And prior to working at the college, he worked with street kids in Toronto, Canada. At the end of his time at the school, I said to him, "Well, I bet your time in this college would have been a whole lot easier working with these kids compared to homeless kids." And his reply actually really caught me out off guard. He said, "Well, actually, no, it wasn't." He explained that when working with street kids, the problems were much bigger but less complicated. Whilst the needs of the kids in the street were obvious, working with middle to upper class kids, sometimes from relatively wealthy families, meant peeling back layers upon layers upon layers of hurt to get to the root of the problem. Although many of the kids from the college lived in big houses, they had everything you possibly ever wanted, lots of gizmos, devices, nice cars, went on expensive holidays, they would say that their life felt empty. On the outside, they put on a show as if they're coming from this happy family, but deep down they were hurting. And usually this hurt stemmed from the absence of one or more parents, usually the father, who often compensated by giving their kids lots of stuff when all they wanted was love. I remember one particular girl, you'd see her in the schoolyard and she was so confident. She owned the world. But I remember her coming to my office and sharing her story. And she had both her parents with her, but they were workaholics and hardly ever crossed paths, and she hardly ever saw them, and she basically got her own meals and looked after herself. And they would compensate by taking her on an expensive holiday at the end of every term. And although she said, I've been to Europe, I've been to the States, I've been to all these amazing places, but what I really want is my mum and my dad. I'm lonely. We hear and read often in the news that a child raised with only one parent is just as well off as one raised with two. Well, that's just not true. But before you get offended by this statement, just bear with me for a bit. According to the US Census Bureau, children raised in a father-absent home are 4 times at risk of living in poverty, 7 times more likely to become pregnant as a teenager, more likely to have behavioural problems, commit crimes or go to prison. In fact, in the US, 70% of all juveniles in the state reform institutions come from fatherless homes. They are more susceptible to drug and alcohol abuse, 2 times more likely to drop out of school, suffer from obesity, or commit suicide. Even infant mortality rates are twice as likely to occur in homes where there is no father. According to the 2007 UNICEF report on the well-being of children in economically advantaged nations, that's countries like the US, Canada, the UK, Australia, the social and emotional well-being of kids is ranked extremely low, right at the very bottom, despite all the opportunities available to them. Now, for all you single mums out there, I don't want you to think that I think your situation is doomed because you don't have a partner. Not at all. I sincerely commend and admire and look up to single mums, and the sacrifices that single mums have to do, they do in order to provide for their children. And I do think that in some situations, some children are better off without their actual father living with them. But the statistics do highlight the importance of father figures in the lives of children. The sad fact is that we have underestimated the important role that fathers and men generally play in the lives of families and the lives of the church, and ultimately the life of this nation. I read a quote somewhere that said, "Our nation doesn't need more men to be the head of the household. We desperately need more men to be real fathers." That's why one of the reasons I love our Flourishing Families missional community so much is that I believe that we need community. We need Christian communities. That old saying that it takes a village, the African saying, it takes a village to raise a child, is still true today. We need community. We need to be supporting one another. We need to be supporting families who don't have, with absent fathers, and kids who don't have dads. I know of a person whose husband
was physically present, but after the Black Saturday fires, he became absent in the lives of his kids due to post-traumatic stress. As a mother, she actively looked for Christian role models to help her raise her 3 boys so that they could see firsthand that there was another option than that and what they saw in their father, their broken father, another option. As a church, we need to not only empower parents, especially fathers, to be active and emotionally engaged in their children's lives from birth all the way through to adulthood. I believe we need to raise up godly men, young and old, to connect and to be positive role models for kids. If you don't have children of your own, or perhaps they've grown up and moved out, perhaps that means being a role model for someone else's kids. If you're a young man, maybe that means prioritising time or hanging out with some kids in your church or down the street, especially those from broken homes. Now, I need to say up front that today's message is challenging stuff for all the men out there, for all the men listening. I expect that as I start working through today's reading, my kids who are in the room with me listening may say to themselves, "Dad, are you preaching to yourself?" Well, absolutely yes. Don't let me give you the impression that I've got this fatherhood stuff all sorted. Absolutely not. I mess up heaps, but like the rest of you blokes, I'm on a journey to try to be, through God's grace, the best male role model I can possibly be. Also, as today is Father's Day, I'll be specifically referring to fathers, but I have in mind anyone who's taken on a father role, including male father role models of all ages. So here goes. This morning I want to look at the story of a father in the New Testament called Jairus. He appears in the three Gospels of Matthew, Mark and Luke, but today I'm going to focus on Luke's account. I'm going to read from Luke 8:40-56. Now when Jesus returned, home to Galilee that is, a crowd welcomed him, for they were all expecting him. Then a man named Jairus, a synagogue leader, came and fell at Jesus' feet, pleading with him to come to his house because his only daughter, a girl of about 12, was dying. As Jesus was on his way, the crowds almost crushed him. And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. But no one could heal her. She came up behind him and touched the edge of his cloak, and immediately her bleeding stopped. "Who touched me?" Jesus asked. When they all denied it, Peter said, "Master, the people are crowding and pressing against you." But Jesus said, "Someone touched me. I know that power has gone out from me." Then the woman, seeing that she could not go unnoticed, came trembling and fell at his feet. In the presence of all the people, she told why she had touched him and how she had been instantly healed. Then he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace." While Jesus was still speaking, someone came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue leader. "Your daughter is dead," he said. "Don't bother the teacher anymore." Hearing this, Jesus said to Jairus, "Don't be afraid, just believe, and she will be healed." When he arrived at the house of Jairus, he did not let anyone go in with him except for Peter, John and James, and the child's father and mother. Meanwhile, all the people were wailing and mourning for her. "Stop wailing," Jesus said. "She is not dead, but asleep." They laughed at him, knowing that she was dead. But he took her by the hand and said, "My child, get up." Her spirit returned, and at once she stood up. And then Jesus told them to give her something to eat. Her parents were astonished, but he ordered them not to tell anyone what had happened. Jairus was the ruler of the local synagogue, which meant that he managed services of worship and ensured the Jewish tradition was upheld in his community. At the time, the synagogue was more than just the centre for religious teaching and worship. It was the centre of the whole community. This made Jairus an important person in his town. And as with many prominent figures, what sometimes accompanies this is pride and arrogance. We see that sometimes with our leaders, our political leaders. Yet we don't see this. We don't see any of this with Jairus. Instead, we read that he humbled himself. He fell on his knees and begged Jesus to visit his house. Visit his house so he could heal his little baby girl, his 12-year-old daughter. Now, some might say, doesn't this just indicate how desperate he was? Well, yes. But even in desperate times, people, especially men, generally speaking, tend to find it very difficult to acknowledge the need for help, the need for direction or guidance. We all know the joke that if you want to ask for directions, you've got to ask a woman to ask for directions because a man's not going to do it. There seems to be this growing trend in society, especially amongst men, that somehow pride or ego makes you strong. As a man, it's not cool to show vulnerability. You've got to look like you've got it all together, all figured out. But real strength is not defined in your ability to put on a good front. Real strength is found in displaying humility. It involves acknowledging that you don't have it all together, you don't have it all figured out, and recognising your limitations whilst keeping in perspective your accomplishments. As believers, being humble means putting aside pride. It means fully trusting in God and following His will, acknowledging that all good things come as a result of His grace. Paul says in Ephesians 4, 1-2, I urge you to live a life worthy of your calling you have received. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. As fathers, as believers, we need to model and teach humility to our children. The following 5 points to consider come from Focus on the Family. The first one, we need to teach our children to be servants. Let our kids see and participate in service to our neighbours, to the people in our church, and to family members. Number 2, we need to encourage them to admit mistakes. Acknowledging and owning our mistakes is a key component of integrity. Number 3, raise them up to be team players. Part of humility is the ability to consider the needs and feelings of others. Encourage mature responses to accomplishments. When children perform well, it's good for them to feel that warm joy that comes from a job well done, but let them know that arrogant or disrespectful behaviour is not acceptable. And finally, instill a teachable spirit. Kids need to be willing learners. A humble person recognises that no matter how much he thinks he knows, he can still improve. Humility. The second thing I want to point out is that Jairus exhibited great patience. After Jesus acknowledges Jairus' request to attend to his daughter, Jesus gets distracted by this woman who's been hemorrhaging for 12 years. Although the woman had a real need, you might think the urgency of Jairus' situation would take priority. After all, we're talking about a dying little girl, a child. I think that if I was Jairus, I'd be getting quite desperate and frustrated and clearing the crowd and yelling out, clear the way for the teacher, clear the way, let him through, trying to grab Jesus' hand and to lead him along the way. And to see Jesus stop and engage with the crowd would just bring up such tension and frustration. It's like, Jesus, don't you understand? Don't you know how important this is? My daughter's dying and here you are stopping and asking who touched you. For goodness sake, come on, Jesus, get a move on. Hurry up. That's me. But it's not what we see with Jairus. At first, it seems odd that Jesus would stop to search for a person who touched just the tip of his cloak. But as we know, God, and in this case Jesus, doesn't always operate within the framework of our understanding. Here was a woman who, resulting from her illness, had been an outcast for 12 years. Not only that, she was poor because she had spent all her money on doctors in order to try and be cured, healed. We read that in the other gospel accounts. Jairus' little girl might have been physically dying, but this woman had been cut off from her community as if she was dead for the same amount of time that Jairus' daughter had been alive. By stopping and pointing out this woman, Jesus made sure that everyone in the crowd knew she had been made whole. Jesus not only healed her, he restored her life. He gave life back to her. Sometimes we get so distracted by our own needs and concerns that we lose sight of what's going on around us. We become so focused on our own problems that we become insensitive to the needs of others. We even think that our problems are more important, our struggles are more important than someone else's. Although what might seem like a distraction or interruption to our life may actually be something significant or important to someone else's. I admit that as a father, I catch myself doing this. I sometimes bump my children's needs down on that priority list in order to bump and prioritise my needs above theirs. But just because I'm a father, does it mean that my needs are more important than theirs? No. Also, as parents, we need to be careful not to become so self-absorbed that we miss the little yet important things going on in our kids' lives. Being patient means tolerating delays or things that put us out without getting anxious or annoyed. It also means acknowledging that there are other things going on around us that, although they may seem not important to us, may be important to others. As a father, as a parent, we need to model patience by not only being slow to anger, but by engaging in our kids' interests, in their schooling, and in their day-to-day activities. And the excuse, I don't have time right now, will wear very thin very quickly. Before long, you'll find that you'll be left in the dark wondering why your kids want nothing to do with you anymore. If you want to have a close relationship with your kids, it needs to be a two-sided one. So what steps are you going to take to better engage with your kids? Are you consistently building time into your week to listen to their stories, to listen to their adventures, to listen to their problems and concerns? Are your expectations of your kids age appropriate? What I mean by that is, there is no point getting frustrated with your kids or expecting them to behave or do something that they're not capable of doing. Are your expectations age appropriate? My final point, demonstrate your faith. Imagine how Jairus would have felt when he got word that his only daughter had died, and then to be told, just leave the teacher, there's nothing more to be done, just leave him alone. How devastating would that be? All his hopes, all his prayers, his searching, crushed. From the perspective of the bearer of the news, there was nothing more that could be done. But Jesus answered Jairus by saying, don't be afraid. Don't let your anxiety or fear consume you. Just believe, or in Greek, it's continue to act out your faith. Keep on believing. Don't give up. You know, Jesus pointed out the woman in the crowd, not just for her benefit, but also for the benefit of Jairus, so that he could see the impossible become the reality. To give Jairus hope. It's easy to overlook how much of a big deal it was for Jairus to act out his faith like this. Taking into consideration the rising opposition to Jesus by the religious authorities, Jairus was putting into jeopardy his position as a religious leader, his status within the community, and even jeopardising his livelihood. It basically put him at odds with the religious institution. But Jairus was someone who not only demonstrated his faith that paved the way for his daughter to be raised from the dead, he was also willing to pay the price for it. Fathers, parents, it is so important to not just talk the talk, but to walk the walk. Our kids need to see us putting our faith into action, even if it places us at odds with our extended family, with work colleagues or friends, the government. The greatest testimony we can share with our children is them seeing us stand up for what we believe, stand up for our faith. As fathers, we need to let our kids catch us in the act of being a Christian. They need to see us reading our Bible, doing devotions or praying. You know, when they see us doing that, they realise it's not just something that happens on a Sunday. It's who you are. It's part of you. And it's part of your life. And therefore, we model that to our children. We need to be intentional and look for opportunities to discuss issues of faith with our kids and help them articulate their thoughts and come up with answers when issues spring up around them. We can use the media for that and bounce off that to discuss issues that are going on in the world. And what is the Christian response to that? We need to encourage our kids to be fellow learners and allow them to teach us stuff. One of the things I love most about being a father is my kids teach me probably more now than I teach them. I love being in that environment where having older kids, you know, we can debate and discuss things and we can learn from one another. It's awesome. As a parent, we can do things like lead prayer times with our kids, devotions, read the Bible together as a family. But most important, we need to model good relationships, especially within the home. Good relationships between your spouse, your partner, but with your kids, as well as those outside the household. Finally, fathers, you can lead the way in getting your kids involved in ministry with the family, but remembering to have some fun. Ministry and serving shouldn't be a chore. It shouldn't be something that the kids go, oh, here we go. We also remember that serving or church isn't just what happens on a Sunday. Find something your kids enjoy doing. Find something that will help them develop their faith and do it with them. Encourage them. Get alongside them. There's a true story of a young man who was to be sentenced to go to prison. The judge had known him from childhood through a relationship with the young man's father. He was a famous legal scholar and author of this big, thick book, legal book, famous book apparently. In sentencing, the magistrate asked the young man, "Do you remember your father?" "Yes, I do remember him, Your Honour," came the reply. Then, trying to probe the offender's conscience a little, the judge said, "As you're about to be sentenced, and as you think of your wonderful dad, what do you remember most clearly about him?" There was a pause, and then a response that the judge didn't expect. "Your Honour, I remember my father. I remember that when I went to him for advice, he looked up from the book that he was writing and said, 'Run along, boy, I'm busy.' I remember Then when I came to him for companionship, he turned me away, saying, "Run along, son. This book must be finished." Your Honour, you remember him as a great lawyer. I remember him as a lost friend. Fathers, don't underestimate the influence you have on your children. But keeping in mind that this influence could be either positive or negative, depending on how you approach your God-given role. Men, generally men, you have a profoundly important role to play in the lives of children, to their well-being and to their emotional and spiritual development. Don't be absent. Don't hold back. Don't allow the mums or the women in your lives to struggle or feel weighed down or feel like they have to pick up the slack. Step up. Be a grandfather. Be a father. Be a mentor. Be a role model. Be a father figure who displays godly humility, who exhibits patience, and who demonstrates his faith. If there are any mums out there today, single mums particularly, who are just really struggling, can I just encourage you to connect with us? Reach out. Because I actually sincerely believe that as a community, as a faith community, the men in our community have a role to play with kids, not just our own, but kids within the community, to be good role models to them.
In the morning when I rise, Jesus be my eyes. Before the day rushes in, with you is where I begin. As you sing over me with your love, I will sing praise for all you have done. Fill my heart as I hunger for you. Flood my mind with your wisdom, your mercy, your truth. Father, make me a river, come living water, and flow through me. You are the one that I thirst for, so come living water, flow through me. Guide every step I take, Lord, let me not wander away. Father, fill every word I speak with the same grace that you've given me. Touch the world with my hands, they're yours. Let my love show the lost that you are the Lord. Father, make me a river, come living water, and flow through me. You are the one that I thirst for, come living water, flow through me. Woo! Make me a river, make me a river, let the river flow. Let the river flow. Let the river flow. Let the river flow. make me a river. Come living water, flow through me. You're the one that I thirst for. So come living water, flow through me. Father,